Neighboring countries will be starved from getting fingerlings. Even our local farmers will be starved from getting fingerlings because we produce all the broodstock here. We're even developing, we have generation 11 and generation 12, which is being developed. All this had been lost. Majority of them, let me put it that way, majority of them had been lost to the flood. So fingerling production within the next year would be very, very, very affected. Nigeria, Cameroon, Togo, Benin depends upon this center for broodstocks. And so you can imagine the extent of damage. The extent of damage is not only about Ghana. The extent of damage would affect the entire West African sub-region. And food security issues is at stake.
One of the trending news on social media throughout last week has to do with the spillage of the Akosombo Dam in the eastern region and the havoc it has wreaked in communities across the Volta Lake. And today we are all the way in Akosombo to assess some of the impact of this devastation, especially with fish farmers. We have toured a number of fish farms and what the situation has been. And today we are on a tour with the Chamber of Aquaculture, where we are visiting some of the farms, how they have been affected by this, their livelihood, and every other thing you need to know. So come along with me as we engage the CEO, the CSIR, the center that is vested in the research area of the aquaculture space. So come along with me as we hear the stories of these people who have been affected by this spillage. I hope you take a thing or two from it so that if you are planning to go into the aquaculture space, you prepare for some of these things.
My name is Joshua Reynolds Lanyo, and this Lee's farm, and here we do tilapia and a little of catfish. As you can see, our house down here has been taken by the river, and you know this thing used to happen almost every year, but I think this year it has really come heavily, and it has taken our building down there. And what happened? This thing happened, I think, 2014. It came. That one was also high, but I think this one is a little higher than that one. And as at now, the water level is not going down; it's still coming up, and it has taken most of our ponds that we used to produce fingerlings. So we have about 12 ponds down there, where we keep 60,000 to 50,000 fingerlings in it, and because of the increase of the water, we can't keep our fingerlings there again, and it has reduced our cost of production. So far, that is what we are experiencing now. Okay, when it comes like that, since we know it do happens, when it's coming, we move our things. When it goes, then we come back to operation. So that's what we usually do. We don't allow it to come and destroy our things. We move the things before it comes. But when it comes like that, it slows down our production. Okay, so this year, we moved some of them, but as for the building down there, we can't move it. So always it comes to take it. That's what we do. But aside that one, we move everything up. So you see, due to that, the fries they are not healthy because of what happened. So after we delivered, they are having a lot of mortalities and other stuff, and it is costing us a lot. Sometimes you have to do replacement for them. Sometimes you have to talk to them for them to understand. So that is what has happened to us now. We have only almost to, let me say, 100,000. 100,000. Yes, we are only having 100,000 here. So
Edukrono, me the zipeto Simon Hotovi, me na me the headman okrono. Enti aye da kakra bi be se busum ba kunene. Ana viade fo ba hosi, mba bobie dam, mba yawda. Ana na de chin fidan ono mu bue dam. Mbe dam na mu bue ne kitwa, enti yeta konsusu eye ye ho duba nyina. Na so ebedu from fidan adu branda no mama so de din di ye ma seal ye manage do best say a week and 2 weeks in it will consist to be. Oh, Musha, can you be brave? I owe you chiha on Sunusu. And ya had no more. Your way and so on your so I knew you did. Until I cricket getting a bar. Yenamun now walking in now woo ya. So do rabbi no denum. Bubu danus to fame. Until and then Ansan and the MP Baha. Or be share also only if you are management to Becassa. And that MP before Nipan be Subaha. And so be share. I know all by my 1,000 Ghana. As he said, when one or done Bubu Yanu, or for managing Ansano, or Coachella only if you had for Cassa or Bessan Baha. Yeah, or under Bubu Yanu, a Nipa Bess a 10. And to us, no, one or dear my 8. And see Baku or the more sack to crabby by and oil bottle baku. And see which 200 or the more cotokumbaku back and oil in the car and the mao. And so Yabahan 1975, Omubuye, women no Missu 2 years, Omubuye, and yet this 1990, Omusan Buebi. And yet this 20 times so moving, that's what we dear. I knew you did. Young conscious, you took that 1 year to me. And yes, I'm a young Mabiabu. Back a crowd and some local fishing. I to me, Quati. I get down yes, Nina assay. And yet the conquer. As a management be a near whom. That's a number 2 years. I'm now a bombing. Say, I know, says on bread, Yanica cra, and a Sikaka cra. Ne di manage say omuluaki dam na ansa na mba bo hwese na ma asanu umeye ndia na ansa an di emwa beba.
Okay, so this is the Aquaculture Research and Development Center, ADEC, of the CSRI Water Research Institute. This is the only research institution we have for the breeding of fish and its related water resources organisms. Before the floods, we used to have this whole section filled with harpers. The blue things you see were harpers right from this side to the other end. And we had blue stalks in them, which were used in producing the fingerlings, the small ones that are sent to farmers. So during the opening of the dam, the spillways were opened, and then we had excess water coming in. The ponds got flooded by moving from one pond to the other in a gradual process. And so by the time we would realize, this section was also filled and most of the fish were lost. However, those that we could salvage, we removed them upland to higher areas where they could be safe. And so as you could see, yesterday's flooding had caused those harpers to be submerged now, because initially we didn't know they would spill again to that extent. And yesterday they spilled again, and then we had these harpers being, the fish in those harpers being lost. So in total, we had about 20,000 fishes in them. We cannot quantify the number that had been lost to the flood because the water levels are still quite high, and so we can't quantify those that had been lost. But however, a few of them will remain. We're also able to salvage a few to higher grounds or higher ponds, as you saw earlier on. And so a few of them had been salvaged into those harpers we saw earlier on. And so when it started raining and the biosecure was getting flooded, from the video that you saw, we decided to drive in amidst the floods, amidst the water, risking our life to save some of the research work that had been done over 20 to 30 years now. And so this seems to be the only upland ponds that we have, and most secured areas apart from those are the office area. So we brought a few of the broodstocks that were at the biosecure area to this side. From the video, we talked about 1 million fish. We are not saying that 1 million fish was lost, but we're trying to say that the broodstocks would have produced 1 million fish for us, or fingerlings for us, but this is being lost to the floods. So a few were salvaged, and so we have about 200 of them that were salvaged out of over 14,000 broodstocks that we had over there. So we had placed them here, and you can see they are still there. They are doing quite well, but majority of them had been lost. So we have, we used to have over 54 cages here. 20 of them were filled with fish, tilapia, but now everything is gone. Everything is gone. In the process of salvaging, we're able to salvage about 17 of them, but the 20 that contain fish, all the fish are gone. We're only able to salvage the drums and the frame. So clearly the water used to be about 50 meters away from here. All this place where we have the tree, the mango tree, used to be a resting place. And this is a platform where we have activities ongoing, where we do a lot of research. But this had all been taken over by the floods due to the dam spillage. The dam is right behind us. As you could see, the spillage is still ongoing. And then we have more water coming in. We believe that by now, additional spillways might have been opened because the water is again increasing in terms of the volume, and the velocity is also increasing. And so this is the extent of damage that has been caused by the spillage from the Akosombo Dam on the Aquaculture Research and Development Center. Yeah, for now, we'll need some support in terms of feed, fish feed, to be able to feed the remnants of the fish that had been salvaged. A few of them had been salvaged. We also would need support to collect broodstocks, additional broodstock, to start the breeding program all over again. And so we need some financial support as well to get this broodstock from the wild and from other places where we think we would get them, so that we can beef up. We also would need support in terms of a pump, so that when the water recedes and this flood is over, we will be able to pump the water out of these ponds and be able to get some of the fish that may be stuck in the ponds for us to continue the process. We also would need net to do the hauling and then the sailing through of the ponds. And so these are a few of the things that we may need for now. So starting with the broodstocks, we had over 14,000 broodstocks at the biosecure area. This was work that had been done for about 20 to 30 years, where we have the Akosombo strain of the tilapia being developed, which is the Orichromys niloticus, was developed from this place. And we have lost most of this fish. Now, in terms of value, this 14,000 broodstocks would amount to over 228,000 Ghana cedis that had been lost when we quantify it based on the various sizes that we had over there prior to the flood taking over. As you could see, the water is not receding any moment from now. You can see the spillway. You can see the water coming in again. So the whole area is flooded, inundated with water. This is a whole pond that contained fish prior to the flooding. All these fish probably had been lost to the floods because we can't see any fish in there again. Behind you are also ponds that had been flooded. And beside you, we had the pumping station, which has also been inundated and washed and destroyed because of the flooding. Before the flooding, we had secured most of our cages because VRA gave some information. And therefore, based on the information, we also prepared. However, when they increased the water levels, when they increased the spillage, we didn't know that the volumes that would come would be as high as this. So prior to Monday, we had almost all our cages being secured. However, when they spilled without informing us, because they seem to have forgotten that a whole national research institution and organization like this, which serve the aquaculture community, is here, and therefore measures and then communication should have been given to ADEC for us to also prepare adequately to forestall any further damage. But this was not done. Therefore, we think VRA and other organizations that may be responsible for the flooding should come to the aid of the Aquaculture Research and Development Center at Akosombo. Yes, from the communication that we saw on some social media platforms, we realized that the CSRI, which is the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, had been left out in the committee that had been set up. We think as a research institution, We have experts who can handle issues with mitigating floods and then ameliorating the effects that could happen as far as impact on human life and then other organisms like fish is concerned. However, we were left out. The Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development was also left out in that committee that seems to have been created. And so we think that maybe the needful needs to be done such that the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, particularly Water Research Institute, can play a major role as far as that committee is concerned. Okay. Neighboring countries will be stopped from getting fingerlings. Even our local farmers will be stopped from getting fingerlings because we produce all the broodstock here. We're even developing, we have generation 11 and generation 12, which is being developed. All this had been lost. Majority of them, let me put it that way, majority of them had been lost to the flood. So fingerling production within the next year would be very, very, very affected. Nigeria, Cameroon, Togo, Benin depends upon this center for broodstocks. And so you can imagine the extent of damage. The extent of damage is not only about Ghana. The extent of damage would affect the entire West African sub-region. And food security issues is at stake. Because now we don't know how many cages are still intact on the river. We don't know how many fish are still there for us to get tilapia, which is a delicacy for Christmas. Most of our fish that were between 900, 700, and 1.2 kilos had all been lost. So even our revenue in terms of IGF is also gone. And so I believe other farmers would also be feeling the same fate because across the river, most farms had lost their cages and most ponds had also been inundated with water. And therefore, we are not certain of the quantum of fish. And this is a food security issue. And so this time, it's not just about national security. It's not just about human life. If the humans survive without fish, without food, without good source of protein, then the human being is also threatened in terms of survival. We really don't know when this spillage will stop. Because we continue to have diverse communication coming from various sectors, majority of them on social media, and so we don't seem to have a reliable source of communication. I believe that institutions and organizations and fish farmers that would be affected should be communicated to. A few circulars were there, but CSR Water Research, ADEC, were completely left out because per chance I cited on one of the documents and were not captured as one of the first to be hit by the spillage. And meanwhile, we provide broodstock for the industry. There might be a lot of diseases that may be caused because fish also carries its own diseases. Some of them are zoonotic diseases, diseases that can be transferred to human beings. And so we have Adverselia, other diseases that could affect human beings as well as affect the fish. And so with the pollution, the level of pollution, the spillage coming in, it came with a lot of debris. Apart from the debris also, there was strong stench because we are the first to be hit. So we had a strong stench. And so in terms of air pollution, there was some level of air pollution issues that could also be taken on. And so, yes, the impact cuts across the entire value chain from the water, land, air, and any other. Yes, and so it's an emergency situation. And so I think the committee should also look at the health status of the fish we consume from now on. There should be a lot of water monitoring and water quality assessment that should be done along from upstream to downstream. So water samples should be taken so that we can know the endotoxins that are in this water, the parameters that needs to be verified, so that we know that the fish and the water even that we are consuming is safe or good enough. This cannot be verified until Water Research Institute is deployed to do this exercise. Thank you.
So my name is John Domozoro. I'm a fish farmer, and I happen to work for the Ghana Aquaculture Association as secretary, and I am here together with the Chamber of Aquaculture, and then we are here touring the communities where aquaculture is going on. And currently we are in Peji. Peji is just lower the Akosombo area, and there's quite a lot of fish farming going here. It's usually in the cluster system, where you have households that have some cages, and also those that have sponsors or investors that sponsor the aquaculture they are doing on behalf of them. So we are here to assess the damage that goes on. These operations support all the livelihoods that goes on here. So the men, as you can see, some of the fish farmers usually take care of these cages and they do the farming. And then most often their wives are those who take these fishes to the markets and do the sale. So it's kind of like it's a micro value chain that the whole community depends on. And you could see some emergency harvest that was going on. These guys have had to work throughout the night, just getting whatever remaining fishes they could get out of the water and sell before it all goes to waste. Okay. Look across the lake, some of those cages, especially the HDP cages, those are mostly not made in country. The materials are imported, the scale is so expensive. A cage can cost about what, $2,500 to $4,000 to build just one circular cage. With the metal cages, the square cages, they don't come cheap. Even with a low quality metal frame, it's about what, 350, 400 cedis for just one bar. You need about 8 to 16 of them to build just one cage. A drum costs about 350, 400 cedis. And you need 16 of those for one cage. If you lose your nets, that's even worse, because a bale of net now is about 9,000, 10,000 cedis. So this is just the infrastructure alone to hold your fishes. And if you now count the fishes that is lost, that's a lot. A ton of fish now is about 30,000 cedis. And imagine that a farmer loses 5 or 10 tons of fish. And you can see the community. It's not a community that is rich people. It's just people doing meager aquaculture to sustain their livelihoods. And imagine a farmer losing, what, 100,000, 300,000. It's going to take them several years to build back their operation to that level. But even the farmers themselves can't tell you the full numbers, because it happened in a flash. And what you can salvage is what you are going after. But on a normal day, you find in excess of what, 200, 300 kgs here. So that's a lot. This is just what is left. So what is gone is far more. I would say 80–90% is gone.
Okay, and each kg?
So you see, that's capital that is eroded. Money is not easy to come by in this country. So even if you did a production and you don't get any profits out of it, you are hoping that you have something to plow back and then make gains again. Now everything is gone. As I just said, it's going to cost them what? 20 to 50,000 just getting their cages back onto the water. Feed cost hasn't yet come, and feed cost is what, 70–80% of the whole production cost. It's just going to be hard. And to also think of it that they have lost some investor confidence, because they have people that invest into their operations. And this has happened. They are not going to get that investment again.
My name is Jacob Ajika, the CEO of the Chamber of Aquaculture, Ghana. So today, yes, we've been on the field to assess the impact of the ongoing water spillage from the Akosombo Dam. And it's quite sad to see the devastating impact of this activity. Businesses have been destroyed, assets have been damaged, people are likely to lose their source of livelihood because of this ongoing activity by the Volta River Authority. So you can see that, yes, the overall impact on the aquaculture industry is very great, and something has to be done to mitigate this kind of activities in the future. So one particular thing that we recommend to cage farmers, especially on the Volta River, is that you must learn to subscribe for aquaculture insurance. With aquaculture insurance, I mean, this can mitigate the impact of this kind of risk when it happens. It can help you to bounce back even when the risk happens. But without it, you are likely to lose everything. And it will take you months or ages for you to bounce back as a player within the aquaculture value chain, or especially as a farmer. So we are encouraging farmers going forward to subscribe for aquaculture insurance. And those who constructing new cages, we're encouraging you to look for durable materials to construct your cages, because you can see that anytime this kind of activity is carried out by the VR, it's likely to have effect on your business. So why don't you opt for durable materials when you are constructing your cages? If you do that, your business will be secured as well. By given the impacts of what has happened, we will call on our key stakeholders, especially the Fisheries Commission and the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, to come to the aid of these affected businesses and individuals who are suffering from this water spillage that is being executed by Volta River Authority at the moment. I mean, they need financial support, they need the basic equipment and machines that will enable them to come back or to start their business all over again. It is very important that we do this, because if you're able to do this, jobs will be secured, because these businesses are creating a lot of economic opportunities in their host communities. If they're able to bounce back, jobs that could have been lost will be secured. And once the jobs are secured, people will continue to have some decent livelihood in their communities. However, if they are unable to come back, then we can see hundreds of jobs going down directly. Direct jobs of hundreds going down, and the indirect jobs will be too much, because a lot of people are involved within the aquaculture value chain. We have women playing a lot of critical roles, young people employed to support the production, and we must make some conscious effort to secure their livelihood and their jobs.